I don't think he wants to answer. Oh my.
I squared. I is an imaginary number. I is the square root of -1. So if you square it, you get a bunch of movement. B, -1. Number 2. Answer for this one is B, -1. That is because you can break this up as I squared, I squared, I squared. Each one of those are a -1. 3 negative signs, negative. That's why it is B. Number 3. -I to the 7th power. Remember, you can break this up as I squared, I squared, I squared. But you would also have to have another I. And don't forget, you would have a negative sign. I'll just make that a -1 on the back end. So all of these would create a -1. -1 times -1, +1, but you still have an I. So that's why the answer is A. Number 4. You can break this up as I to the 2nd, I to the 2nd, I to the 2nd, I to the 2nd, and I to the 2nd. Each one is a -1. You have an odd number of negatives, so the answer is -1, D. Pick a number and drop it off. The winning number, 3, 5, 10, 12, 19.
Dang it!
To simplify complex numbers, example 1. I equals what? The square root of -1. As long as you remember that, you can work outward from there for any problem that you have. So if I have I squared, it equals what? -1. The square root of -1 times the square root of -1 is just the sign under the number, -1. What if I had I to the 3rd? You can break it up as I squared times I. What is I squared? -1 times I is simply what? -I. I to the 4th you can break up as I squared, which would give me an answer of what? 1, because they are both -1. I to the 5th, you can take out I to the 2nd, I to the 2nd, but be left with an I. In other words, we have I to the 4th here. What would I to the 4th be? Just 1, then you have an I, so your final answer is I. I to the 6th, 3I squares. Answer is what? -1. I to the 7th, what was I to the 6th? -1 times I. Final answer is -I. If you know that I to the 6th is -1, then there's no need to go ahead and break them all up as I squared. The larger the power you go, the more you'll be able to save time. I to the 8th, can anybody remember what I to the 4th was? 1, so how many I to the 4ths are in I to the 8th? 2. 2 times 1. Or not 2 times 1, but 1 times 1 is 1. So I to the 8th is 1. There are tricks you can use as you go through this. For example, if I had something crazy like I to the 32nd, and you remember that I to the 8th is 1, I to the 8th will come out of I to the 32nd. You could have 3 of them. Actually 4. You would have 4 I to the 8ths. But if I to the 8th is 1, no matter how many I to the 8ths you have, the answer is still 1. So there are all kinds of different shortcuts you can learn if you keep track of these on a list and look them over each day. What about I to the 9th? Can you remember what I to the 3rd was? Negative I. So if I had negative I and negative I and negative I, that could help me. But what was I to the 8th? 1. So it's just I. Alright. Notice how this would break up. What's negative I times negative I?
No, 1.
Negative I times negative I is I squared. What's I squared? Negative 1. What's negative 1 times negative I? I. So it works out either way. Here's example 2. Here's the general form for the complex numbers. A plus bi. A is going to be a constant, and then b is a coefficient on the imaginary number I. So anytime you end up with an answer that has an I in it and any other number, or it could be a variable, put your I second, and then everything else first. So if I had negative 4 minus 3i, what would A be? Negative 4, and what's B? Negative 3. Simple as that. Of course, it's negative 4 and negative 3. Here's example 2a. This should be no stranger to you. You would use the FOIL method to multiply this out. So if we do that, you would have 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times minus 3i is minus 9i. 2i times 4 is 8i. And then 2i times a minus 3i is going to be minus 6i squared. Now we have to simplify. First, simplify this. Negative 9 plus 8 is negative 1, so we just have a negative I left. And then minus 6i squared. What's the next thing that can be simplified? I squared, yes. So I squared is what? Negative 1. So we'll go back. And negative 6, negative 1, plus 6. So we have 12 minus I plus 6. But you should simplify the 12 and the 6 to get 18. The 18 goes first or second? First. 18 minus I would be your final answer. Another problem just like that. I need to lower this marker just a little bit. There we go. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. Negative 3 times 6i squared is minus 18i squared. Minus 4i to the third times 5 is minus 20i to the third. And then we're going to have negative 4i to the third times 6i squared. So that would be minus 24i to the fifth. Now let's go back and simplify where we can. We have a negative 15, and then the I squared here is negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 18 is plus 18. Now we have that I to the third. What is I to the third? It's what? Negative I. So negative I times the negative 20 would be plus 20i. What was I to the fourth? I to the fourth was 1, so what's I to the fifth? Just I, so minus 24i. Now we have negative 15 plus 18 is a 3, and 20i minus 24i is a negative 4i. Two times 3 is 6. 2 times minus 5i to the 5th is minus 10i to the 5th. And then minus I squared times 3 is minus 3i squared. Minus I squared times minus 5i to the 5th is plus 5i to the 7th. 6 minus 10i, that's the simplification there, plus 3 because I squared is a negative 1. And then for this one, remember I squared is negative 1. You can get 3 of those out of that, which would be a negative 1, but you still have I left. So a negative I, which would change this to, and I wrote plus automatically, but I need to change that to a minus 5i. 6 plus 3 is 9, minus 10i minus 5i minus 15i. Page 1. Davis. Artist got one right. Blankenship. Klein. Levins. And Coburn. Grace. Coyle. Page 2. Boots. Waddell. Mitchell. Ellie. Strickland. Pollard. Hines. Shaw. Smith. Any questions about that problem? Good thing Blankenship got it right, because I see his mother every other day at Walmart. I'm at Walmart more than the Jehovah's Witnesses are on my front porch. Every time I see her, I give her a report. A report, yes. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Mike Jr. has a pink calculator. That's bad. Mike Jr. got an A on the test. That's good. Practice 2. Seven times 6 is 42. 7 times 4i to the 6th is plus 28i to the 6th. From here to here is minus 18i, and here to here is minus 12i to the 7th. Alright, so let's keep the 42, and then here we'll have a premature plus sign, so that should be minus 28. And then here, there's nothing we can do with that right now. But over here, we have a 12, minus 12i to the 7th. I to the 6th is negative 1. So that would be a negative I. Change this to plus 12i. 42 minus 28 is 14. Negative 18 plus 12 would be negative 6. So 14 minus 6i. Example 3. In this case, we have x's in here. 3x times 4x is 12x squared. 3x times I to the 6th would be plus 3xi to the 6th. And now we're going to have minus 2i squared times 4x is minus 8xi squared. And then minus 2i squared times I to the 6th is minus 2i to the 8th. Well, the 12x squared, not a whole lot we can do with that. But over here we have I to the 6th next up. That's a negative 1, so we'll have minus 3x. And then I squared is minus 1, so this becomes plus 8x. I to the 4th is what? 1, so I to the 8th is also 1, so minus 2. Alright. Now, in this case, we have no i's left over, so it's just 12x squared. Simplify these two to get plus 5x, and then minus 2. 12x squared plus 5x minus 2. Alright, we will start with this to come up with 2x to the 5th, and then this to get plus I, actually that's plus x to the 3rd, I to the 6th. Here to here gives me minus 2x squared I to the 4th, and from here to here gives me minus I to the 10th. 2x to the 5th we can't touch, but I to the 6th is what? Negative 1, so we have negative x to the 3rd. I to the 4th is what? 1, so minus 2x squared, and what's I to the 10th? Negative 1 with a negative in front of it, plus 1, and as luck would have it, everything is in descending powers of x. So that's it.